So it is a rainy day here in Big Sky Country, and I have a few sales that I'm going to be sharing with you from the first week of April. So first of all, I do have some coffees to extend my thanks and appreciation for. First of all, Elizabeth had sent us 3 coffees, and she just appreciated the variety of information she's learned about from my channel. And then there were 2 other gifts of coffee that we received, but the givers decided to remain anonymous, which is totally fine. So someone sent us 2 coffees and someone sent us 3 coffees. So I do appreciate that, whoever you are, supporting the channel. The link for the Send Me a Coffee is usually in most of my videos. It's just basically like a little tip jar. It's not anything I encourage or require, but it's there if you just want to help support the channel and help support the fact that I can keep making these videos. Anyway, I know I've talked about how the beginning of April was kind of slow for us. It was when I was having that bad week, right? And I realized, beginning of April is slow for a lot of people. It's slow because of taxes. It's slow because of spring breaks. There's lots of different reasons why we experience that slowdown, and we experience it every year. I get to April and I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's the first 2 weeks of April. And I am happy to report that after the midpoint of the month, our sales did seem to start to go back up again. But we're going to just talk about that first week. It's not a full, so this will be a little bit shorter than normal, but it wasn't quite a full week. I just was trying to get back on my schedule. So it's like April 1st through the 6th. And we're starting with eBay with this Love Your Melon beanie. And this actually went overseas. And so Love Your Melon, I've had mixed results with it. Some of it sold really quickly. Some of them sold a lot slower. I know some of the Love Your Melons, some of the ones we've sold in the past, they had like a snap on the top, and you could swap out little pom-poms, like different style pom-poms, whether it was fur or whatever. So in any case, that's the story about that. So that sold for $16.99. And I didn't make note of what country it went to. But anyway, our beanie sales have slowed down. Obviously, we're coming into warmer weather. Hopefully, baseball caps are picking up. But the beanie action has slowed down a little bit. I found and sold a Glassy Baby again. This was actually at the bins. Just one day, just kind of surprised me. It was sitting there at our little clearance store, and I saw it kind of behind some other stuff and thought I recognized it for sure as Glassy Baby. And it turns out, as you can see, I put the word Triskelion in it. Here's a picture of the Triskelion mark on a Glassy Baby. So a lot of the more valuable ones you'll see in the listings, they say pre-Triskelion. So it's just kind of a way to mark time and age of a Glassy Baby. I don't remember off the top of my head when they started marking it that way, but it is kind of a thing you'll notice in listings, Triskelion or pre-Triskelion. And so this one sold for $40. I took an offer on that. Then this one I'm sharing, even though this particular listing or sale got refunded and returned. The buyer, I sold it for $38. Now, one of you lovely viewers told me, I'm trying to get to the tag, told me that I was looking at this as it said results, but someone clarified it for me that it's actually Roosevelt's. And that makes sense now that I look at those. Oh, here, let me click on it. I look at the glasses and the mustache. That makes a whole lot more sense. So Roosevelt's, NASA, astronaut. So you guys remember a couple What Sold videos back, I had shared the Roosevelt ones, that shorts, swim shorts that I had sold. And there was like a collaboration with Shark Week or, different ones like that. And they had sold pretty quickly. So I was on the lookout for this brand. I saw NASA, and I was like, sweet, this is going to be good. So pretty quickly, I got attention on this. The buyer actually I sold it for $38 to him. He actually wanted it for less. And I didn't want to go much below 40, not that quickly. And I think he wanted like 30, and I was like, no. And I think I got a counter maybe at 38, and I was like, all right, $2, I'm not going to bicker. So I took the 38. Well, they got it. I don't know what they didn't like about it. They claimed that there was some like pulling on the buttonholes or something like that. Anyway, they were fishing for a partial refund. And I don't really play that game because I'm thinking they were just trying to get back down to that offer that they had come up with originally. So I said, nope, but you're welcome to return it. And so they did. So I got it back. And if you stay tuned to future What Sold, you'll see I sold it again pretty quickly on Poshmark for more. So it all worked out in the end. So I just throw that in there as a, it's part of business, returns, dealing with people like that, but I don't get too excited about it, and then I just move on, and it sells. So I'm glad it came back to me and went to a more appreciative buyer. Okay, so this was a viewer sale. Thank you so much. Oh, I forgot to write down your name. Hold on a second. I don't know I'm not going to give the last name, but Judith bought this wall hanging fabric panel from me. You guys have seen it. If you've been watching my What Sold, you've seen it, over the last year and a half or so. And this is the last one I had. And so Judith had heard me mention I had one left, so she went over and bought it so that she could have it in her stash. But I just wanted to say, where's my math? Okay. So I had said when I finally sold out of these, I would give the totals. I first listed these in October of 2023. So somewhere, I think around September, I remember where I bought this. We were out of town, and I was at a Goodwill, and it was on a bolt of fabric, and I paid $6.99 for the bolt. And it was just this fabric panel over and over and over again. So it turned out there were 12 panels on the bolt left, and starting in October 2023, I sold them mostly all at full price for $14.99, and one sold on sale, and then one person bought two of them, and I gave them a deal for like $20. We did $10 a piece. So in all, I paid $6.99 and made $168.40 on these fabric panels. The lovely part about it, because it's like a replenishable, we only had to make one listing, and I usually listed like 5 at a time. And then when, I ran out, I tried to remember. There was sometimes a few weeks would go by before I remembered to add a few more to the listing. So not too bad with minimal work. So, okay, I just thought I would share that with you. The next one was a Mr. Pish Posh door hardware sale, something he no doubt salvaged from a job, and that sold for $25. It was a Weiser single cylinder deadbolt. And then the next one was a Starbucks. This sale kind of came out of nowhere. I was happy for it because this had been listed for a little while. We used to pick up this type of vintage Starbucks stuff all the time. And I'm sure I still would, just out of nostalgia, even though it sells a little slower than it used to. But this is older Starbucks. And there was a line, Ciao Italia, by Bellini's, and they did Starbucks, handmade in Italy. So there's a time period in there where you'll find different ones, like one made in Hungary. My friend the other day, she's like, look at this mug I found. And it was like, I think made in Hungary, or hand painted in Hungary or something like that. But very much that kind of look to things. So this was just a creamer. Picked it up kind of out of nostalgia, and it sold for $14.99. It had probably been listed at least a year. I don't quite remember where we picked these up. It might have been our clearance store before it changed locations, but the brand is Fry. And Fry is more known for cowboy boots and boots in general. Not a cowboy boot, more of an equestrian. I forgot the name of that one style of Fry boot, harness boots. And here's the marking on the side of the shoe. These were just ballet flats, which Fry is definitely not really known for, but they do a lot of leather goods. They do, oh, here's a better picture. They do handbags and wallets and things like that. So we got a $15 offer on this, and it was kind of in that week as we were realizing that sales were pretty slow. And I'm like, you know what, let's just move stuff. Whatever offers we're getting, we're pretty much taking. So $15 was more than fair for that pair of flats. Then again, we got an offer for $14 on this. It's just a stainless steel water bottle kind of thing. I think also got picked up at our bin store, and we sold that for $14. It was a ski logo or ski company or something like that, we figured out. This was actually a pretty good sale for that week. We had picked up a few vintage America West Airlines pieces at our Goodwill. You do have to be careful with like uniform type things. These were vintage, and we felt a little more comfortable because America West is no longer in business under that name. And so, it's not like somebody was going to pretend to work for the airlines. So it was like a defunct airline. I feel a little safer doing that, and that might be really the only ones that you can safely list anyway. So this sold for $67.49. We got an offer on that, and I think I remembered we got really good feedback on that. Vintage hat sold. It's a Lone Star Motorsports, but it was signed by a couple people kind of faintly, and Richard Petty, AJ Foyt, and we sold that for $18.99. Next up is some more hardware, vintage pair of, so if you remember, we sold some of those other hinges that had that copper flash japanned look that Mr. Pishposh had learned about, and he came across it again in these little butterfly hinges. Good for like a cabinet door or a box or a chest or something like that. And those sold for $24.99. They're just kind of little. So, sold some flatware, International Stainless, Delido, their butter spreaders. I don't know, they just kind of stood out to me. A lot of times this flatware with the black accent does pretty well. They're vintage, definitely from like the 60s, 70s. And I remember it was kind of funny at the thrift store as I was buying them, the lady behind the counter was just kind of like, who would want these? Like who would even buy these? I think she was talking about maybe when she was putting them out, like, why am I even putting these out? Like, who's going to want butter spreaders, And I just thought it was kind of odd to say that in front of the person who's buying them, but whatever. So I bought those and sold them for $17.99. Probably paid $1 for all of them. Okay. Hampton silversmiths. I love it when I list pieces of flatware from a certain pattern, like, if I list the knives and the forks and the whatever, and I love it when the knives go first, right? Because the knives usually take the longest to sell. So these Hampton Silversmiths Bistro is a good brand in Hampton. I don't pick up all Hampton, but Bistro is a solid seller in a solid pattern under Hampton that does pretty well. So they weren't in the greatest condition. I threw them on there for $14.99 and they sold. Then we have this hat. This actually came back to us, so we sold it for $15. She did make some comment when she returned it that it was too big for her and that maybe we should put like a measurement in our listing, but then we got it back and we're like, it's a snapback, and so you can adjust it. So I was like already like, oh man, we should measure it. Like, what's going on? And then like my husband tried it on. I adjusted it. I tried it. Like, you can make it fit, like, depending. So, and she specifically mentioned circumference, so she might not have understood how a snapback works, and that you can even like overlap it. I'm not sure. Okay, so $15 for that, and we refunded, and we will get that relisted soon. Then some more tools from Mr. Pish Posh. Those are Springline nail set metal center punch setters. Anyway, if that means something to you, I'm glad. These sold for $20. I'm pretty sure we've sold things like this in the past that were in like their package and things like that. Did a little bit better with those. Okay, over to Posh. The rest of the that first week was pretty slow. Like, as you can see, eBay, it was kind of steady, not our usual week. Things kind of trickled in. The rest of our sites were pretty slow as well. So if we look at Poshmark, I just sold this pair of Jason Wu with Melissa and Jason Wu jelly flats, and it was mostly a nostalgia pickup because I had jelly shoes in the 80s. Did you guys have jelly shoes? Anyway, I could not even imagine wearing these now anyway of how like sweaty my feet would get. But anyway, $15 for those. I was just happy to move them on. And then I sold this fun comb hair accessory by Vidal Sassoon, and it, I use these type of things where it's this the whole way, this zigzag thing, and it pulled my hair back into like a long ponytail. So this kind of does the same thing, and someone bought that for $13 on Posh. Okay, nice sale over in the flatware shop on Etsy. This Dansk salad fork sold for $34. This was in a bag at Goodwill that I picked up one day, and I bought the bag because I could see this fork in there and knew that Dansk Odin was generally always a winner. Then we had in Mr. Pish Posh's, the shop that he pretty much takes care of, we sold this folding alarm clock for $34.99. And if you notice, when he cross-posted or copied and pasted or whatever he did, the right information is down here in the description. Seth Thomas, made in Taiwan, all that kind of thing. But he forgot to change out the title. So it was an other listing for two totally different brand travel clocks. So I noticed that, and I said, Mr. Pish Posh, before we ship, could you double check with the buyer? So fortunately, most buyers look mostly at the pictures. She hadn't even noticed the title, and she knew this is what she was getting. And so all was well. Then this was a nice sale in that shop as well. I was happy for that. If you guys remember this writing desk stationery box kind of thing, I shared in a kind of like a haul video that I had picked up at Goodwill. It was like someone had decoupaged the horses on it, and here's a better picture of it. As you can see, kind of like, I don't know, somebody made it and then they decorated it and everything. But it was just this little angled kind of writing desk, and then it opened up, and inside you could hold like your stationery, and there was a little groove for pencils and things up there. So that sold. I just, it wasn't easy to find any kind of comps, but we sold that for $50 on Etsy. And another nice necktie sale. Now, this one was technically the week before, but I don't remember sharing it with you in the last video. So if I did, we're going to chalk it up to old lady brain. And so this tie is by Rhinecliff, and it had this really pretty sailboat design on it. And I noticed that it said, where is it? I've never seen this before. On the tag, it said, oh, here we go. Here's a better picture. With the dots. And so I was like, okay, what does that mean? And then sure enough, there's some felt dots sewn into the tie on the back. And so all that turns out to be is it helps you when you're putting the tie on. It helps you to line up where you should start tying so that the picture on your tie is where you want it to be. Anyway, there weren't that many out there in Solds or other places, and so I just kind of made up a price, and it was on Etsy. I had it cross-posted a couple places, and it sold on Etsy for the full $50. Then over in the pattern shop, just had a couple pattern sales. This Vogue Ralph Lauren pattern sold for $36. Super happy about that. It was a pant dress, which are really popular right now. And then had, very summer looking dress coming up. And it was from 1989. So, that 90s look, super popular. So I priced it a little higher, and it sold within like a month or so. Then this mother-daughter doll dress pattern sold for $12 by McCall's. And kind of a newer simplicity pattern with just a blazer and a jacket sold for $9. That I think is just my dashboard. And then over on Ruby Lane, I have another viewer sale. Somebody had watched my videos on Ruby Lane, and so they had just mentioned that they were that they had watched those videos, and then they were going to try it out selling on Ruby Lane. But they purchased these little children's books by A.A. Milne, and I think I got these that same day as I got that horse stationery thing. That was part of that haul as well, and those sold for $14. So okay, so that's it for that first week. I have something coming up with Mr. Pish Posh. He'll probably be in our next video. And I realize that as I'm doing these what solds, it's not really showing the full scope of everything that we've been selling, because Mr. Pish Posh has been running his Lego site. I've talked about it before. And then he's also reopened up another Etsy shop, and has been cross-posting some things into there. And we've had some interesting sales over there that, because I haven't bothered to get the sign-in from him, and I don't even look at it, the sales go out. He might tell me about a few of them, but a lot of them I don't see. I don't even see the Lego sales. He does the shipping, so he just gathers up what he sold in the Lego shop, and then I don't really, he might share a few things here and there. So we're going to get together, we're going to share those two stores with you and just kind of do a quick overview, so that you can see that there is more, full disclosure, we do have some more sales happening that I just don't talk about. I will be getting the sign in for the other Etsy shop, so I'll add those sales in to this as well. But the Lego thing is still pretty much his kind of thing, and so we'll just try to, he'll kind of give his experience with selling Lego so far and some of the strategies that he's using. So that should be coming up later this week. As always, leave me a comment down below if you have a great sale or a great find or something like that happened this month or recently or back at the beginning of April, whenever you want to share it. And let me know how your sales are going, if they've picked up at all for this month. So we'll talk to you later, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.